Vanessa Hale bought her 72-year-old father-in-law a $7,000 massage chair to make him look cared for. What Walter eventually discovered was that someone had modified it to help make him look confused. The headaches came first, then the sleepless nights, then the moments of disorientation. Vanessa carefully repeated to his son Daniel as evidence that Walter was beginning to decline. That mattered because Walter owned more than 20 acres of land, now worth far more than anyone had expected, and he had refused every suggestion that he sell. Vanessa believed she had found a better route. If Daniel stopped trusting his father's judgment, Walter could be pressured into surrendering temporary control of the property. Her plan depended on one assumption, that an aging retired engineer would panic when no one believed him. Walter did the opposite. He stopped accusing her. He stopped complaining about the chair. He even told Vanessa that maybe Daniel should start handling the land. She thought the machine had finally done its job. What she did not know was that Walter had already opened it and turned her trap around. The delivery truck arrived just after 10 on a Tuesday morning, large enough that Walter Hale assumed someone on the road had ordered a refrigerator. Then it backed into his driveway. Walter stood on the porch with a coffee mug in one hand, while two deliverymen lowered a massive black massage chair onto a wheeled platform. Behind them, Vanessa Hale came through the front door, smiling like she had been waiting all morning for his reaction. Walter looked at the chair, then at Vanessa, then back at the chair. "No," Vanessa laughed. "You don't even know what it is yet. I know it's too big. It's a massage chair. I know what a massage chair looks like. Then why'd you say you didn't know what it was?" Walter took another drink of coffee. "I was hoping. I was wrong." Daniel came around the side of the house carrying a toolbox and grinning. $7,000, Vanessa said proudly. "And don't you dare tell me it was too much." Walter nearly choked. "It was too much." Daniel laughed. Vanessa folded her arms. "You spent 40 years fixing machines for everybody else. Let one take care of you for once." That quieted him. Walter looked again at the chair. His wife, Margaret, had been gone almost 4 years. Since then, the house had grown too quiet, in ways Walter did not like admitting. Daniel and Vanessa had moved in temporarily 3 months earlier, after renovations began on their own place across town. Walter had resisted at first, but he had grown used to hearing footsteps upstairs again, used to Daniel leaving his coffee cup in the wrong cabinet, used to Vanessa asking if he wanted anything from the store, and she had been good to him, better, sometimes, than Walter thought he deserved after a lifetime of believing independence was a virtue that needed defending. "All right," he said, "but if that thing starts giving financial advice, it's going back." The chair was installed in the living room near the front windows. It had heated rollers, leg compression, adjustable recline, speakers, voice control, and more buttons than Walter thought any piece of furniture had a right to possess. He examined the control panel before sitting. Vanessa noticed. "You're inspecting it." "I'm looking." "You're inspecting." Looking is what engineers call inspecting when people are watching. Daniel shook his head. Vanessa selected a 20-minute program called Deep Therapy. The chair leaned Walter backward. Warm rollers moved along his spine. Air cushions tightened around his calves. Walter's eyebrows rose despite himself. "Well?" He kept his eyes closed. "I hate it." Vanessa laughed. Walter smiled. For the first few nights, he used the chair because he genuinely liked it. Vanessa had placed it close to where he usually read after dinner, and around 8:30 she would ask, "Did you do your 20 minutes?" Walter complained every time, then sat down anyway. The headaches started 5 days later. Nothing dramatic, a dull pressure behind his eyes that appeared late at night and disappeared by morning. Walter blamed coffee, then weather, then age. At 72, he had stopped treating every ache as a mystery worth solving. A few nights later, he woke at 2:17 in the morning. His mouth was dry, his head felt heavy, and there was a sound in the room. Thin, steady, almost too high to hear. Walter opened his eyes. The bedroom was dark, except for the digital clock beside the bed. 2:17. He sat upright. The sound continued. For a moment he thought it might be the old smoke detector in the hallway, but it was not the sharp chirp of a dying battery. This was continuous, more felt at the edge of hearing than clearly heard. Walter stepped into the hallway. Something moved near the stairs. He froze. A human shape seemed to be standing at the bottom landing. Walter reached for the wall switch. Light flooded the hall. Nothing was there, only Daniel's coat hanging from the stair post. Walter stared at it, then laughed quietly at himself. Good work, Hale. He went back to bed. The next morning, Vanessa found him rubbing his forehead at breakfast. You okay? Didn't sleep much. You should have said something. There was nothing to say. Daniel looked up from his phone. Headache again? Walter frowned. Again? You said you had one Sunday. Walter had forgotten telling him. Vanessa noticed the pause. Only for a second. Then she pushed the coffee toward him. Maybe you need to slow down a little. Walter waved her off. Over the next week, the bad nights became more frequent. He would use the massage chair, go upstairs, and lie awake for hours feeling exhausted without being able to settle. Sometimes the thin ringing returned. Sometimes it did not. One morning he put his coffee beside the sink, walked into the workshop looking for it, then spent several irritated minutes searching before finding the mug exactly where he had left it. Another afternoon he forgot a dental appointment. That bothered him more. Walter had forgotten names before. Everyone did. He had misplaced keys. He had walked into rooms and forgotten why. But Vanessa began noticing every incident, not accusingly. That was what made it worse. Daniel, your dad barely slept again. Or maybe you should drive today, Dad. Or, Walter, you already told us that. Once, Walter caught Vanessa looking at Daniel after he dropped a spoon. Neither of them said anything. Walter wished they had. One evening, he entered the living room alone and stopped 3 steps from the massage chair. There it was again. That thin electrical whine. Walter tilted his head. The chair appeared to be off. A small standby light glowed near the control panel. He moved closer. The sound became easier to isolate. Not loud, not mechanical in the ordinary sense. Just wrong. Walter bent slightly toward the right side of the chair. What are you doing? He turned. Vanessa stood in the doorway carrying folded towels. Walter pointed toward the chair. Do you hear that? She listened. Hear what? Daniel came downstairs. Walter raised a hand. Quiet a second. They waited. Walter could still hear it. Daniel shook his head. I don't hear anything. Vanessa's face softened. Not amused. Concerned. Maybe the ringing's in your ears. Walter looked at her. Then, at the chair. The sound stopped. He stared at the control panel for another few seconds. That night, for the first time since the chair arrived, Walter did not use it. He told Daniel his back felt fine and went to the workshop instead. There was an old brown recliner in the corner beside his workbench. Its leather cracked along one arm, and a spring that complained every time he leaned back. Margaret used to threaten to throw it away. Walter had always repaired it just enough to prevent her from succeeding. He fell asleep there sometime after 11, when sunlight came through the workshop window the next morning. Walter opened his eyes and remained still. No headache, no ringing, no thick, sleepless fog behind his eyes. He checked the clock. He had slept almost 7 hours without waking once. Walter sat up slowly. Through the workshop window, he could see part of the living room, and inside it, the black massage chair sat exactly where Vanessa had placed it. For the first time, Walter did not see an expensive gift. He saw a variable, and before he accused anyone of anything, Walter Hale intended to change it again. Walter did not touch the massage chair that morning. He made coffee, ate 2 eggs, and spent most of the day in his workshop repairing a table lamp that did not need repairing. The lamp belonged to nobody. Walter had pulled it from a shelf simply because he wanted something simple in front of him. A switch, 2 wires, a socket, a problem with one answer. The chair was different. By evening, his head still felt clear. No pressure behind the eyes, no ringing. Daniel came home shortly after 6 and found Walter replacing the lamp cord. You feeling better? Walter looked up. Better than what? Daniel smiled uncertainly. Yesterday. I'm fine. Vanessa appeared behind him carrying grocery bags. Good. Maybe you finally got some sleep. Walter watched her set the bags on the kitchen counter. He said nothing about the chair. That night, at 8:30, Vanessa passed the living room and glanced toward it. No therapy today? Walter shrugged. Thought I'd give the machine a day off. It costs $7,000. It doesn't get days off. Daniel laughed. Walter did too. Then he sat down. Vanessa selected the same deep therapy program she usually chose. Walter closed his eyes. This time he paid attention, not to whether the chair felt good, to when things changed. The heated rollers began first. Nothing. Air cushions tightened around his calves. Nothing. The chair reclined farther. Still nothing. Then, nearly 4 minutes into the program, a faint pressure formed behind Walter's right eye. He opened his eyes. The room looked normal. He listened. There, the high whine. Very thin, very steady. He let the program finish. That night he slept badly. At 1:43 he woke with the same pressure in his skull. At 3:10 he was still awake. By breakfast, the fog behind his eyes had returned. Walter did not mention it. The following night he skipped the chair again. He slept in his own bed. Better. Not perfectly, but better. The night after that, he used the chair. The headache returned. Walter wrote the dates on a yellow pad in the workshop. Not conclusions, just facts. Monday, chair, poor, sleep, headache. Tuesday, no chair better. Wednesday, chair, ringing awake, 1:43. Thursday, no chair, slept 6+ hours. He stared at the list. Correlation was not proof. Walter had repeated that sentence to younger engineers for years. Find the pattern, then try to break it. He walked to a cabinet at the back of the workshop and took down an old portable radio. Daniel had mocked him for keeping it. The plastic casing had yellowed with age, and the tuning dial had to be pushed slightly sideways to keep one local station clear. Walter switched it on. Static filled the workshop. He adjusted the dial between stations until only white noise remained. Then he carried it into the living room. The massage chair sat empty. Walter turned it on. Nothing unusual happened. He moved the radio along the back. Static. Along the left side. Static. Near the control panel. A little distortion. Walter paused. Then he started deep therapy. The radio snapped with interference. Walter moved it away. The sound weakened. Closer again. The crackle increased. He crouched beside the right panel. The radio erupted in a harsh burst of static. Walter switched the chair off. The interference disappeared. He turned it on again. It returned. Walter sat back on his heels. For the first time, he allowed himself to say it aloud. That's not right. He went upstairs and found the chair's manual in the folder Vanessa had left inside a kitchen drawer. The manual was thick, glossy, and almost useless to anyone who wanted more than operating instructions. Walter searched the model number online from Daniel's old laptop, then found a service diagram buried inside a technical support document. He printed it. Back in the workshop, he studied the layout. Power supply, motor controls, heater circuit, air compressor, audio board, voice control assembly. Nothing surprised him, until he compared the drawing to where the interference had been strongest. According to the diagram, there should not have been anything substantial in that section of the chair, except a harness passing through toward the rear assembly. Walter waited until Daniel and Vanessa left the next afternoon. Then he unplugged the chair. He removed the service panel. The first thing he saw was dust. The second was a screw head with fresh marks around it. Walter stopped. Someone had opened this panel before him. He leaned closer. Most of the internal wiring was neatly bundled, labeled, and secured with factory clips. One group was not. A short run of wire disappeared beneath a bracket at an angle that made Walter's jaw tighten. Different insulation, different connectors, hand-routed. He followed it with his eyes. Behind the bracket sat a small additional module. It was not shown anywhere on the service diagram. Walter did not touch it at first. He simply looked. There were 4 things an old engineer learned after enough years around machinery. Machines broke. People made mistakes. Repairs left evidence. And factory work had a rhythm. This did not belong to that rhythm. Walter took 2 photographs, then 3 more. He replaced the panel exactly as he had found it. When Daniel and Vanessa returned, he was sitting at the kitchen table, with the service diagram folded beneath his hand. Daniel noticed immediately. "What's that?" Walter unfolded the page. "The chair." Vanessa set her purse on the counter. "What about it?" Walter looked at Daniel. "There's something inside it that isn't on the factory layout." Daniel frowned. "What do you mean, something?" "A module. Added wiring." Vanessa's expression changed, but only into concern. "Added by who?" "I don't know." Daniel leaned against the counter. "Could be part of a different production run." "It could." Walter's answer surprised him. Daniel relaxed slightly. Walter continued. That's why I want somebody qualified to check it. Vanessa nodded almost immediately. Of course. Walter looked at her. She had agreed too quickly for him to read anything from it. The technician came the next afternoon. He was young, polite, and carried a tablet instead of a paper service book. Vanessa stayed in the room. Walter noticed that. The technician ran the chair through its normal diagnostic modes. Motors, heat, air system, audio, control response. Everything passed. Walter pointed toward the right side. I want that panel checked. The technician hesitated. My service call says intermittent noise and possible electrical fault. That's where I found non-standard wiring. Daniel looked at Walter. Vanessa looked at the technician. The young man crouched, opened the panel, and studied the visible harness. For several seconds, Walter thought he had it. Then the technician stood. The chair is passing its normal diagnostics, sir. I'm not seeing an operational fault. That isn't what I asked. Daniel sighed quietly. Vanessa stepped closer. Walter, maybe we shouldn't keep pushing this today. He turned toward her. I'm not tired. I didn't say you were. You were about to. Vanessa's face fell, not angry, hurt. Daniel looked between them. Dad. Walter heard the warning in his son's voice. He stopped. The technician packed his tools. After he left, Vanessa touched Daniel lightly on the arm. Maybe we should tell the doctor about the ringing. Walter looked at her. There it was again. Every question he raised became another fact about him. Not the chair. Him. He stood and carried the service diagram back toward the workshop. On the dining table, beneath Vanessa's purse, a folder had been left, partly open. A printed page showed through. Walter would have walked past it if his own last name had not been printed across the top. Hale Property Development Estimate. He stopped. Vanessa moved faster than he expected. She crossed the room and closed the folder. Just something Daniel and I were looking at. Walter looked at Daniel. His son seemed genuinely confused by the tension. About what? Vanessa answered first. Planning for the future. Walter held her gaze. Then he looked toward the living room, toward the black massage chair. That night, after everyone had gone upstairs, Walter returned with a flashlight and opened the right service panel again. He traced the added wiring farther than before. One path ran toward the section that controlled the chair's special programs. Walter stared at it for a long moment. The module was not merely drawing power. It had been tied into the chair's control system. And for the first time, Walter stopped wondering whether the chair had been altered. He began wondering what someone had altered it to do. Walter waited until morning before he said anything. Not because he doubted what he had seen, because he had spent enough years around failed systems to know the difference between finding a fault and proving what caused it. At breakfast, Daniel was reading email on his phone, while Vanessa stood at the counter, slicing strawberries. Walter placed the printed service diagram beside his son's coffee. Daniel looked down. What's this? The chair. Vanessa did not turn around. Walter pointed to the marked section. There's wiring inside it that doesn't belong there. Daniel rubbed his forehead. Dad, we already had somebody check it. He ran diagnostics, and everything passed. That tells you the chair turns on. Daniel looked up. Walter continued. It doesn't tell you why somebody opened the service panel and added a module the factory drawing doesn't show. Vanessa set the knife down. Somebody? Walter looked at her. She held his gaze. Who are you saying did that? Walter should have stopped there. He knew it, even as the silence stretched. But the folder from the dining table was still in his mind. The appraisal, the questions about his land, the way Vanessa watched Daniel every time Walter misplaced something. I don't know yet, he said. Vanessa's expression changed. Not guilt, pain. That doesn't sound like you don't know. Daniel sat back. Dad. Walter looked at him. You think Vanessa did something to the chair? I said it was modified. And you're looking at my wife while you say it. Walter's jaw tightened. Vanessa stepped closer to the table. Why would I do that? Walter did not answer. That was worse than accusing her. Vanessa let out a slow breath. Then she pulled out the chair opposite Walter and sat down. Daniel, your father is hearing a sound nobody else can hear. He thought someone was standing in the hallway when nobody was there. He forgot his dentist appointment. Now he believes someone altered a massage chair. That isn't what I said. She turned to him immediately. Then tell me what you are saying. Walter opened his mouth. The answer was there. Someone had changed the chair. He had photographs. He had wiring that did not match the factory layout. He had symptoms that followed use. But none of that answered the question Vanessa had asked. Why? Daniel watched him struggle to compress suspicion into proof. Vanessa reached across the table. "Dad, maybe we should tell the doctor everything." Walter pulled his hand away before she touched it. Daniel noticed. "Dad, I'm not sick. No one said you were. You're both sitting here talking about me like I'm not in the room." Daniel's face hardened. "We're talking because we're worried. And I'm talking because something is wrong. With the chair? With what's happening in this house?" The words landed badly. Walter knew it the moment Daniel stood. Vanessa stayed seated. That was what impressed him most. She did not defend herself. She did not raise her voice. She only looked frightened for him. And Walter understood, too late, that anger was the one thing she needed from him. He pushed back from the table. "I'll see the doctor." Daniel blinked. Walter picked up the service diagram. "You want me checked? Fine." Vanessa said softly, "Thank you." Walter looked at her. He had never disliked the sound of gratitude so much. The appointment was 2 days later. Walter answered every question. He gave the doctor his medication list. He described the headaches, sleep loss, ringing, and the night he had mistaken Daniel's coat for a person. He did not hide the chair. He did not hide his suspicion. The doctor asked several memory questions and ran basic cognitive screening. Walter passed them, not perfectly, but well enough that the doctor did not make the declaration Daniel seemed to fear. "What concerns me most right now," the doctor said, "is how little sleep you've been getting." Walter nodded. Vanessa sat beside Daniel with her hands folded. "So this could be sleep deprivation?" Daniel asked. "It can cause poor concentration, irritability, memory problems, even perceptual mistakes." Walter looked at Vanessa. Her face remained still. The doctor continued, "I'm not making any larger conclusion today. I want the sleep issue addressed first." That should have helped Walter. Instead, on the drive home, Vanessa said quietly from the passenger seat, "Until we know more, maybe somebody else should handle the stressful things." Walter looked at the back of her head. Daniel kept his eyes on the road. What stressful things? Bills, insurance, property paperwork, just temporarily. Walter said nothing. Daniel finally spoke. "Dad, she's not saying you can't handle things. That's exactly what she's saying. No, she's saying you shouldn't have to." Walter watched the roadside pass outside the window. The language had changed. Not take control. Help. Not remove his authority. Protect him. By the time they reached the house, Walter understood the shape of the trap better than he understood the machine. That evening, he heard voices in the living room. He had gone halfway downstairs for water when Daniel said, "Dad will never sign anything he doesn't understand." Walter stopped. Vanessa answered, "That's exactly what I'm worried about." A pause. Then Daniel, "He built half the control systems in that plant. He understands paperwork. This isn't about intelligence." "What is it about then?" "Judgment." Walter stood motionless in the dark stairwell. Vanessa lowered her voice. "If the doctor says his sleep is affecting him, what happens when someone comes along with an offer for the land and he makes a decision he can't undo? He doesn't want to sell." "I know." Something in the way she said it made Walter grip the railing. Daniel sighed. "I'm not taking Dad's accounts away." "I didn't say that. I'm saying maybe we should have something ready. Temporary authority. Just in case." Walter went back upstairs without getting water. The next morning, he did not confront either of them. That surprised Vanessa. Walter could tell. She watched him eat breakfast, watched him take his coffee to the workshop, watched him say nothing about the chair. Inside the workshop, Walter laid everything on the bench. The symptom log, the photographs, the service diagram, the property appraisal heading he remembered from the folder. None of it was enough. If he tore the chair apart now, Vanessa could say he had damaged it. If he accused her, Daniel would hear paranoia. If he shouted, he would become exactly the man she was describing. Walter looked toward the house. For 40 years, when a machine failed, men around him had wanted to start replacing parts. Walter had always asked the same question first. What evidence do we actually have? He needed a record, not another argument, not another theory. A record. That afternoon, Walter opened the chair again. He left the added module exactly where it was. He did not remove the wiring. Instead, he studied the voice control assembly and the space around it. The chair already had a microphone. It already had power. And, more importantly, no one in the house thought of it as anything except furniture. Walter spent the next several hours making one careful change. Nothing elaborate. Nothing that would make the chair behave differently. Just enough that sound near the chair could be stored somewhere Vanessa would never think to look. When he closed the service panel, the chair looked untouched. That night, Daniel found Walter sitting in it. "You okay?" Walter let his head rest back against the cushion. "Just tired." Daniel's expression softened. Vanessa stood in the doorway. Walter saw relief pass across her face. For the next 3 days, he gave her more of what she expected. He asked Daniel to handle one utility bill. He let Vanessa remind him twice about an appointment he had not forgotten. He stopped mentioning the high-pitched sound, and whenever anyone asked how he felt, he answered the same way: tired. By Thursday evening, Vanessa no longer watched him with concern. She watched him with confidence. Walter waited until after dinner. Then, with Daniel and Vanessa both in the living room, he looked toward the dark window beyond the massage chair. "Maybe you're right," he said. Daniel lowered the television volume. "About what?" Walter kept his eyes on the window. "Maybe it's time I let you handle the land for a while." Daniel stared at him. Vanessa did not move. Walter stood slowly. "I'm going to bed." He climbed the stairs. His bedroom door closed. For nearly a minute, nothing happened downstairs. Then Vanessa turned her head toward the staircase. She waited. Finally, she looked at the massage chair and reached for her phone. Walter did not go to bed. He closed the bedroom door, waited 30 seconds, then crossed quietly through the upstairs hall and went down the back staircase that led toward the workshop. From there, he could not hear the living room clearly. He did not need to. The chair could. Walter switched on the small receiver he had set beside his workbench and watched the indicator. Recording. He sat down. For several minutes, there was nothing except the television. Then Vanessa's voice. Low. Controlled. "Hi, it's me." A pause. "No," he finally said it himself. Walter leaned closer. Another pause. He told Daniel he might let him handle the land. Walter waited. Vanessa laughed softly. "No, Daniel still thinks this is temporary." The words were useful, but not enough. She spoke for another 3 minutes. Appraisal, timing, an attorney, the South parcel. Nothing Walter could not explain away as ordinary planning. Nothing that proved why she had been pushing Daniel to question his judgment. Then Vanessa ended the call. Walter sat back. His first feeling was not disappointment. It was annoyance at himself. He had expected too much. A good trap did not force a person to confess. It only gave them room to act like themselves. Walter saved the recording anyway. The next morning, Vanessa was cheerful. Too cheerful. She made eggs for Daniel before work and asked Walter whether he had slept. "Some. Headache?" "A little." She nodded sympathetically, then placed a folder beside Daniel's plate. Caleb called back. Walter continued buttering toast. Daniel opened the folder. "Friday? 10 o'clock. Walter looked up. Daniel noticed. "Just a conversation, Dad." Walter nodded. "About the land?" "About making things easier," Vanessa said. There was the phrase again, easier. Walter had heard managers use it when they wanted operators to surrender control of systems they still understood perfectly well. Daniel closed the folder. "Nobody's signing anything unless Dad wants to." Vanessa smiled. "Of course." Walter looked down at his toast. She still needed him. That mattered. Whatever she wanted, she could not simply take it. She needed Walter to appear willing, or confused enough that Daniel would pressure him into believing willingness was the responsible choice. Walter changed his approach. That afternoon, he found Vanessa alone in the kitchen. He opened the refrigerator, stared inside for a moment, then said, "How much did you say the South parcel was worth?" Vanessa turned. "I didn't." "No?" "No." Walter closed the refrigerator. "Thought you and Daniel had an estimate." Her eyes sharpened slightly. "We were just looking." Walter nodded. "If Daniel's going to handle it, I suppose I ought to know." Vanessa studied him. Walter let a little uncertainty remain in his face. "Not too much." "You want me to show you?" "Later." Then he walked away. That evening, Daniel was called back to the office because of a problem with a client contract. Walter listened from the workshop as the front door closed behind him. Vanessa remained downstairs. Walter waited. At 9:30, he came into the living room wearing an old robe. "I'm turning in." Vanessa looked up from her laptop. "You okay?" Walter rubbed his temple. "Head, did you use the chair?" Earlier, he had not. Vanessa closed the laptop halfway. "You want me to bring you anything?" "No." Walter glanced toward the chair, then back at her. "Don't stay up on my account." He went upstairs. Again, he closed the bedroom door. Again, he used the back stairs. By 10:15, he was in the workshop. At 10:28, headlights crossed the far wall. A car stopped outside. Walter looked toward the receiver. Still recording. The front door opened. A man's voice entered the living room. Caleb Mercer. Walter knew the name from the property estimate. He had never met him. The first few minutes were useless. Coffee, traffic, Daniel's schedule. Then paper moved across the table. Caleb said, "You're sure he'll agree?" Vanessa answered, "He's already starting to." Walter stopped breathing for a moment. Caleb lowered his voice. "What about Daniel?" "Daniel thinks this is about taking pressure off his father, isn't it?" A pause. Then Vanessa laughed once. "Not the kind of pressure I'm worried about." Walter stared at the receiver. Caleb said something too quietly for him to catch. Vanessa answered more clearly. "Daniel won't touch the south parcel while Walter is making every decision himself. And if Walter changes his mind, he won't. That's the point." Paper rustled again. Walter leaned closer. Caleb said, "You still need his signature." "I know. So this only works if he agrees." "He will." "You sound confident." Another pause. Then Vanessa. "He hasn't slept properly in weeks. Daniel already watches every little thing he forgets." Walter's jaw tightened. Caleb said, "And the chair?" Silence. For 2 seconds, Walter heard nothing but the faint hum of the house. Then Vanessa said, "Leave it alone." Caleb did not. "I asked whether it's safe." "It's doing what I needed." Walter closed his eyes. There it was. Not everything, but enough to make the next words matter. Vanessa continued, "He doesn't have to lose control of himself. He just has to lose Daniel's confidence long enough to sign temporary management over." Walter's hand tightened around the edge of the bench. Caleb said, "Temporary. That's what Daniel needs to hear. And after, the south parcel goes first." Walter looked toward the dark workshop window. For the first time in weeks, his anger felt clean. No confusion, no doubt, just direction. Then Caleb asked, "What happens when Walter starts sleeping again?" Vanessa answered almost immediately. "By then, the paperwork is done." A small sound came through the receiver. A beep. Walter froze. In the living room, Vanessa stopped talking. "What was that?" Caleb said. "What?" "The chair." Walter stood. The receiver still showed recording. Then another faint electronic tone sounded. Vanessa crossed the room. Walter could hear her footsteps. He imagined exactly where she was standing. Beside the right panel, looking at the small standby indicator he had tried to make appear ordinary. Caleb asked, "What's wrong?" Vanessa did not answer. The next sound was her hand touching the control panel. Walter moved toward the workshop door. Stopped. If he went into the house now, the entire strategy died. She would know. She would destroy whatever remained inside the chair. She might never speak that freely again. Walter forced himself to stay where he was. A click came through the receiver. Then silence. The recording indicator disappeared. Walter stared at the dead light. For several seconds, he did not move. He had heard enough, maybe, but hearing it was not the same as having it. He checked the storage unit. No response. He tried again. Nothing. The chair had lost power before the system completed its normal save cycle. Walter looked at the clock. 10:41. He spent the next hour trying to determine whether anything had survived. No certainty. No clean playback, only a storage device that might contain the most important conversation of his life, or nothing usable at all. The next morning, Vanessa acted as though the night before had never happened. At 9:42, she placed a leather folder on the dining table. "The attorney will be here at 10. Daniel sat beside her. Walter stood at the bottom of the stairs and looked toward the massage chair. Its standby light was dark. 18 minutes. That was all he had before everyone in the room expected him to decide whether someone else should begin controlling the land. Walter looked down at the small storage device in his hand. He still did not know whether Vanessa had switched the chair off too soon. And if the recording was gone, the only person in the house who knew exactly what she had said was Walter. At 9:57, Daniel heard the attorney's car pull into the driveway. Vanessa straightened the folder on the dining table. Walter remained standing near the stairs. He looked tired. That part was real, but the confusion Vanessa expected to see was gone. Daniel noticed first. "You all right?" Walter looked at his son. "I will be." The doorbell rang. The attorney introduced himself as Martin Cole, a gray-haired man who carried one leather case and spoke with the careful neutrality of someone accustomed to entering rooms where families had already decided what they wanted him to say. He sat at the dining table. Vanessa placed the folder in front of him. Walter sat across from Daniel. The massage chair stood behind them in the living room. Dark, silent. Cole opened the folder. "My understanding is that we're discussing a temporary management arrangement for certain financial and property matters." Walter nodded. Vanessa leaned toward Daniel. "Just until your father is sleeping properly again." Cole looked at Walter. "Mr. Hale, I want to be very clear. No one here can simply take control of your property because your family is concerned. Any authority you grant has to be voluntary, and you need to understand exactly what you're signing." Daniel glanced toward Vanessa. Walter saw it. Small, but important. Vanessa said, "Of course." Walter folded his hands. "Before we talk about what I understand, I'd like to show Daniel what I found." Vanessa's shoulders tightened. "Walter." Daniel looked at her. "Let him talk." It was the first time in weeks Walter had heard his son say those words. Walter went to the workshop and returned carrying a thin folder, the chair's service diagram, and the small storage device. He placed the diagram on the table. "This is the factory layout." Cole leaned closer. Walter set photographs beside it. "This is what was inside the right service panel." Daniel studied the images. The added wiring was easy to see once Walter pointed it out. Vanessa shook her head. "You opened the chair yourself." "Yes." Daniel looked up. Walter continued. "After I had reason to." He placed his symptom log beside the photographs. Dates, chair use, headaches, ringing, sleep, days without use. Improvement. Vanessa gave a short breath. "A handwritten list doesn't prove anything." "No." Walter looked at her. "It proves I was testing instead of guessing." Then he slid another page across the table. The day before, after Vanessa left the chair powered down, Walter had driven into town with the module photographs and model information. An independent service specialist had compared them with the manufacturer's documentation. The written note was brief. The additional module and associated wiring were not part of the chair's documented configuration. Daniel read the statement twice. Vanessa's face hardened. "So your father modified it and then found someone willing to say it wasn't factory?" Walter nodded once. "Eventually, I did modify it." Vanessa turned immediately to Daniel. "There, do you hear him?" Walter picked up the storage device. "That's why we're here." For the first time, Vanessa stopped speaking. Walter connected the device to his old laptop. Nothing appeared. His stomach tightened. He tried again. Daniel watched. Vanessa did too. The room felt suddenly smaller. Then a recovery folder appeared on the screen. Walter did not smile. He opened it. 3 damaged files. 1 partial audio file. He clicked. Static filled the room. Vanessa's hand moved toward the table. The recording began with the television, then her own voice. He told Daniel he might let him handle the land. Daniel stopped moving. The file crackled. Several seconds, vanished. Then another fragment. "Daniel won't touch the south parcel while Walter is making every decision himself." Vanessa stood. "This is ridiculous. You recorded me without my knowledge, and now you're playing pieces out of context." Cole raised one hand. "Sit down." She ignored him. Walter let the recording continue. Caleb's voice came through. "You still need his signature." Then Vanessa. "He will." Static. "He hasn't slept properly in weeks. Daniel already watches every little thing he forgets." Daniel's face changed. Not yet anger. Something worse. Recognition. The next fragment was damaged badly enough that Walter almost thought the important part had been lost. Then Caleb's voice returned. "And the chair?" Silence. A burst of noise. "Vanessa, leave it alone." Another gap. Then, "It's doing what I needed." Daniel looked at her. Vanessa's mouth opened. Walter did not stop the file. He doesn't have to lose control of himself. He just has to lose Daniel's confidence long enough to sign temporary management over. The room went still. Daniel stared at his wife. Vanessa finally sat down. "That is not what it sounds like." Walter almost laughed. He did not. Caleb's voice. "Temporary." "Vanessa, that's what Daniel needs to hear." Then, clearer than Walter remembered hearing it live, "The south parcel goes first." The recording ended several seconds later in a sharp electronic click. Nobody spoke. Cole closed the unsigned folder in front of him. "We are not proceeding with any documents today." Vanessa looked at Daniel. "You know I was trying to protect us." Daniel's expression barely changed. "Us? You know what that land could do for our future." "My father's land. Our family's land." Walter spoke for the first time since the recording began. "My land." Vanessa turned toward him. Walter's voice remained quiet. "You spent weeks teaching my son to doubt me before you ever asked me what I wanted. I never hurt you." Walter looked toward the chair. "You knew I wasn't sleeping." Vanessa said nothing. Daniel pushed his chair back. "Did you know that thing had been altered?" She looked at him. That was enough. Daniel stood. "Pack a bag." "Daniel, today." Vanessa stared at him for several seconds, then at Walter. Walter saw anger finally replace the concern she had worn for weeks. It suited the truth better. Cole advised Walter not to sign anything concerning the property until the chair, recordings, and related communications had been independently reviewed. Walter agreed. He had already decided on something else. Within the next week, the proposed management arrangement disappeared. The south parcel discussions stopped. Walter placed the land into an estate structure that required independent oversight before any future sale or transfer could occur. Not because he wanted to punish Daniel, because Walter had learned something he wished he had never needed to learn. Love was not a control system. It should never depend on one person having all the switches. The altered module was preserved for further examination. Whatever legal consequences followed Vanessa's actions would be decided elsewhere. Walter did not need to watch them happen. The part he cared about came 3 nights later. Daniel entered the workshop. Walter was sitting at the bench, repairing the same old table lamp he had worked on when the testing began. Daniel stood in the doorway. "Why didn't you tell me everything?" Walter did not look up. "I did." Daniel frowned. "No. About the chair. About Vanessa. About what you thought she was doing." Walter set down the screwdriver. "I told you something was wrong." Daniel looked at the floor. Walter continued. "You just stopped believing me." Daniel closed his eyes. There was no defense for that. "I thought I was helping." "I know. That almost makes it worse." Walter looked at his son then. Daniel's eyes were wet. "I'm sorry." Walter nodded slowly. "Not forgiveness. Not yet. But an acknowledgement. Trust takes longer to repair than wiring." Daniel gave a small, broken laugh. "I suppose you'd know." "I do." The massage chair was removed the following morning. Daniel watched the delivery men wheel it out. "I can get you another one," he said. Walter stared at him. Daniel raised both hands. "Right. Bad idea." Walter walked into the workshop and dragged out the old brown recliner. The leather was cracked. The left arm sagged. Daniel looked at it. "That thing has to be 30 years old." 34. "Still works?" Walter lowered himself into it. The spring complained. He settled back. "Never needed fixing." That night, Walter slept in the living room for the first time in weeks. No electronic glow beside him. No thin whine at the edge of hearing. Only the wall clock marking the hours. He woke after sunrise. His head was clear. Outside, morning light stretched across the southern acreage Vanessa had been so eager to control. Walter stepped onto the porch. A few minutes later, Daniel came out carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to his father. Neither man mentioned the land. Neither mentioned Vanessa. They sat beside each other and watched sunlight move through the trees. For the first time in weeks, Walter did not need to explain what he heard. He did not need to defend what he remembered, and he did not need anyone's permission to trust his own mind.